Hi everyone, welcome to the Wild Apricot Bootcamp. My name is Coach Mark and I'm going to take you through 5 lessons about how you can learn to use Wild Apricot better. About myself, I've been with Wild Apricot for a few years now, and in my time I've helped thousands of communities to grow. You may have seen me at things like PersonaFest or any of the Personified Connections conferences, and if there's anything I can do to help, just reach out. As you're working with the bootcamp, you will see that you are able to ask questions directly to Wild Apricot. On the page you're on now, there are a number of different ways to get in touch with us, and I really encourage you to do it. We want to hear from you, we want to be able to answer your questions, and we want you to feel comfortable and confident. Also, each lesson does have a handout that you can download directly from this page. It's in PDF format, and inside that handout you'll see a copy of all the slides we use, plus links that you can click on to go directly to additional resources that are mentioned within the bootcamp. Once again, if you have any questions, just ask. Without further ado, let's get to today's lesson. Let's jump right into Wild Apricot websites. So, a quick overview. The ability to create websites on Wild Apricot is included on every plan. In fact, it's part of the all-in-one solution. There's no real way to segment it out of there because it's already pre-built in. You do not need to know how to do any coding to be able to use the Wild Apricot website builder. So although you can still use things like HTML or CSS or JavaScript, if there is anybody out there who fancies himself a bit of a web developer, that hopefully makes you happy. But for the rest of us, knowing that everything is done by drag and drop or just inserting your own text or pictures, hopefully will be a source of relief. We wanted it to be easy. We didn't want anybody to have to spend tons of time on it. And we also wanted it to be accessible to everybody out there, regardless of your skill level. Wild Apricot websites are included in the hosting ability of Wild Apricot. So if you wanted, you wouldn't necessarily have to have an outside website host. You can just do it directly through Wild Apricot. It's all included. It's all built into the solution itself, and you will be able to save a little bit of money that way. And of course, you don't need to use this website builder if you do have an outside website, maybe on another website building software, or maybe you've had something for years that an IT person has set up for you and you just want to be able to use that. So if you are not interested in the website builder, don't worry, you can still use all your Wild Apricot functionality in the form of widgets. And we will talk about that a little bit later. Now, mobile responsiveness is something that was a pretty popular issue a few years ago, and we started retroactively changing all of our sites and all of the gadgets that are built into the sites so that they will appear properly on mobile devices. And what that means is that if you view your Wild Apricot website on a mobile phone or a tablet or some other device, you will actually be able to see everything just fine. You'll be able to navigate through everything just fine. The menu will scale down. All of the buttons will become a little bit smaller and still be clickable. And of course, you can customize this further so that it has particular responsiveness or does particular things when viewed on a device. But even by default, it will come built to be mobile responsive just by default and with its inception. So I do have some pages here on the handout that may be able to explain this a little bit better. And it has everything you need to know about websites on Wild Apricot, as well as designing responsive pages and being able to use widgets and making those responsive as well. Now, what I want to show off is how exactly this looks on a mobile device. And how I'm going to do that is, here we are on the professional organization again. Let's just get rid of my bookmarks so we have a little bit more space. Now, one thing I'm going to show you really quickly is that you have the ability to actually see how this will look on a mobile device simply by scaling down the size of your browser window. So what do I mean by that? Well, right now we have our window completely maximized, which means it takes up the whole screen. If I were to unmaximize this, and then I made my window small, as if to simulate a mobile website, then you can see that my page actually scales down with the size of my window. It's fully mobile responsive. Everything will change in order to fit the window that we're looking at. You'll notice that buttons get smaller, donations goals get smaller, membership forms and upcoming events gadgets get smaller. And that's how we can ensure that this site will actually be able to be navigated on a mobile device. The menu bar has disappeared from underneath our title and it has instead gone to the top of the screen. And you can see that if I click this, I'll be able to navigate the menu just fine. So if this were a small cell phone or mobile phone and I was trying to navigate with my thumb, you can see that the bar is actually possible to do. I could click on different pages of my site and be taken to different sections. And that's just a real cool trick on how you can find the mobile responsiveness of your site and see it with your own eyes. So that's just kind of one of the coaching tricks here. And of course, that will work on any of the sites that any of you are building. Okay. Back to the presentation. Not too much to show for there. Okay, themes. Now, themes are something that if you are building a website for the first time on Wild Apricot, I sincerely hope that you think about for a couple of minutes, maybe even a day, because it's the best way to kind of go forward with a plan in mind and to have everything built and designed and organized in such a way where you can actually stick to that plan and get things done. When you first create your Wild Apricot website and you're asked to select the kind of organization that you represent, Wild Apricot builds a sample site for you. So many of you have probably seen this when you first started your site. It would have created a couple of pages and a couple of pages or incidences of gadgets that show off some of Wild Apricot's functionality. But those are sample sites. They're built for you so that you don't see a blank page when you first open your account, and you can go about modifying them from there. You can change your theme at any time by going to website and then themes. Now these are a little bit different than the sample sites. These are overarching themes for your site. They'll change the colors, they'll change the way that buttons perform and menus. And you can change at any time, but you may lose actual content that you've created for your site. None of the database stuff will be affected, but content, for example, if you added a couple of places on your site where you're saying hello to people just with a content box, then those will not persist if you change your theme. So I kind of, as a consequence, recommend doing this first, at least when you're beginning to think about how your website on Wild Apricot is going to look. And of course, you can do this by logging in, going to website, and then going to themes. And I'll show you right now that there are a number of options available. They're all mobile responsive, and you can actually preview them before you can decide to commit them to your site. On the help or on the handout, you'll see that I also included information about the theme overrides. Now this is recommended for advanced users only because you will need to know a little bit about how themes work and how HTML works. But if you are somebody who is a website developer, or there's somebody in your organization who may be able to complete a change like this, you do have the ability to upload your own theme to Wild Apricot and have it use that. But if that's not you, and I know for a fact that I'm not really an advanced user like this, we can just use the ones that are pre-built and already there, ready to go. So let's go take a look at how we would do that. Okay, so for theme options, there's one thing that is pretty neat, and it's not always immediately evident. But if I go into website, and then I'll go into theme, you can actually see all of the options available here. And I'll just scroll down to give you an idea of how many different versions and variants of different themes exist. This one, Tinted Tiles, for example, has 4 main color options that you could select. Otherwise, the layout stays mostly correct, but if you do want to start from one of these, then you can gladly select it. Likewise with Showcase, you have a bunch of different color options. And then when you take one like Terra, it will change a lot of the look and feel of the site as well. So if you see something that might look close to what you want your final website to look, I definitely recommend starting from that theme. It's going to save you a lot of time later. And of course, you can always change anything that you do want on that actual page. Now, let's say we found a theme that we want to try. Let's take this one here. I happen to like how the grass looks in the background. This is the Terra Field of Dreams. So it doesn't always seem immediately obvious, especially because the button says apply selected theme. But when you do choose a theme and you click this apply selected theme button, you have the option to preview it. So the very first step in this as a 2-step solution here for the themes is that you get to preview the theme. So let's hit the preview button. And this will just take a moment as it prepares the theme for us and connects all the links and makes sure all the pages will work as well. And there you go. This is the preview of the new theme. So you can see that it's changed a lot of what we actually had on our home site, but we can see what it would look like. And if I think the professional organization would really benefit from using a theme like this, then I can go ahead and actually make this new theme permanent by clicking the button in the top left. If it doesn't look that good, and now that I've seen it enlarged like this, I decide it's not really perfect for me, I can go ahead and revert back to my previous theme. So this is an excellent way to kind of preview things and see for yourself what things would look like. Hopefully it does jog some ideas in your mind and you kind of envision your own information and pictures and your membership application on that actual theme. But of course, you want to find something that's going to look like how you want your site to look at the end of when you're finished working with it. I just want to reiterate again that you can actually change anything on any of these themes, but they're here as examples and they're here as starting points so that you can use them and jump off from there, make your site even better. Okay, that's it for themes. Let's go back to the slides. Okay, the CMS. So the CMS is kind of a fancy way of saying that it's the way you make changes to your website. It actually stands for something called a content management system. And when you think about it, that's the system that's going to allow you to make changes without having to know coding, for example. A lot of the time you would have to know HTML to be able to change how your website looks, but Wild Apricot has this CMS so that you can just make changes there, the same way that you would to something like an email. So I'll show you that in a moment, but it is quite easy and many people can learn it. In fact, that's why you're here. So how does Wild Apricot CMS work? Well, it's mostly drag and drop the way I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to show you that right now, but it's actually quite easy to drag and drop things as long as you know what you should be looking for on the CMS itself. And of course, we have tons of info here in the handout that you can watch. We have a quick intro video to how website development works. We also have what you should know about website setup. And then, because of the lovely people in technical support, we have a lovely setup checklist for websites themselves. So if you feel like you don't know where to start and you don't know where to finish and you're just very lost, go ahead and check out that setup checklist. It's really useful and I think it'll help you a lot. But now let's go and look at what it looks like to actually make some changes to something on our website. So we're back on my test site. We're in the theme menu right now, but I'm going to go to website and then I'm going to go to site pages. And of course, we'll cancel our changes here. That's okay. I like my theme as is right now. So we've gone to the site pages menu, and this will show us each individual page on our site. And that's things like the home page, the news, the join us, directory, etc. All of these will be listed here, and you can make changes to any of these particular pages. But let's say for now we want to make some changes to the home page. So I'm going to click edit. That'll take us into the actual development side of things for this page. And you can see that the first thing we see on the left is the page settings themselves. This is where you can change things like the name of the page. So if you didn't want this to be home and you wanted this to be, I can't think of a synonym for a home page, starting page. That works. You can go ahead and change that there. Let's put that back to home for now. I'll confuse myself. You can change which template the page is using, and we're going to be talking about this a lot more in a little bit, but you can basically select from any template you have designed, and that'll be how this page is actually designed top to bottom, what it takes as its starting template. You can change its position in the menu, so whether this is the home page or whether it's later on in your menu bar, you can change that here. And you can also change the access level. So whether this is a public page or it's something that's restricted to certain member types or groups, or whether it's something that's admin only. And here's another tip. If you're designing a site and you don't want anybody to see a page that you're working on right away, then leave it as admin only, because only you and your fellow admins will be able to view it, nobody from the public. Likewise, if you want to restrict a page, maybe to just your board members, you go ahead and select restricted, and then you can restrict by level or group. And then only board members will be able to see this page at all. So let's put it back to public just for now. Okay, that's good there. Now, the other thing that you can take a look at is the actual site page itself, and you can scroll that down with the scroll bar on the right. We have all of these boxes here in which we've added content, and you can see here that I've added thanks for coming by, you are a superstar. And if we wanted to change that, well, we can use the content management system to click in here. And now we are editing this actual box of information. Right now it says, thanks for coming by. If we wanted to make that bold, If we wanted to add some more text, and if we wanted to add a picture, you've guessed it, it's going to be the popcorn apricot. He's a little too big. Let's make him nice and small. And actually, let's make him wrap with the text so that he doesn't take up his own line. To do that, I'll click into the picture. I'll click Settings. You'll see here that you have text flow. Let's make the image on the left, and the text will wrap right. There you go. And that's it. That's all it actually takes to be able to make changes to anything or to any of your content on your site. Now, if we wanted to add an additional content box, we can do that as well. Let's go ahead and save these changes. Perfect. They've been saved and updated, and now our site says, "Thanks for coming by. You are a superstar." I really mean it. But let's go ahead and edit that page again. And this time, let's add a content box. So what I'm going to do is go and click the Gadget button, which is right next to Page and Layouts. It's right in the middle. We'll click Gadgets. We'll scroll to the top of this menu. We're going to select the content box. And then when I pick it up with my mouse, you're going to see that on your site, you have all of these blue bars. And what these blue bars signify are places that you can actually drop this gadget. So when you see a blue bar in front of the other text and picture that we have right now, that means if I were to drop the gadget here, it will appear on top of where these other two gadget boxes are. If I were to drop it here, it'll be underneath my menu bar. And if I were to drop it here, it will only appear on this left side above this particular gadget. So you can see the blue bars will change to green to show you where that gadget will actually take up space. And you, of course, can select as needed. So for now, let's put it here. We have a new content box on top of our site. And let's just put some more text in there. Whoa. Gray background doesn't work so well with gray text, does it? Let's change this text to orange. Let's center justify this, and we'll hit save. And there you go. We've added additional content to our site. It now appears right on top of the menu and just says the professional organization so that everybody knows where they are. I'm just going to check the question box real quick. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, now we will move on a little bit farther because I want to talk more about gadgets. So what is a gadget on Wild Apricot? Well, gadgets are things that are built into Wild Apricot, and you can kind of think of them like they're the advanced things that you may not necessarily know how to make yourself, but luckily many of them are built into Wild Apricot, and all you have to do is decide whether or not you want to use them. So they're things like the membership applications, things like a login button or slideshows, video players. If you want to have something like a map. There are tons of gadgets on them. I'll show you a couple of them right now. And as we've seen, they can be placed on your website by using the drag and drop method. So you just have to decide what you want and where you want it to go. And then that's all it takes to actually get it onto your page. The one thing that you should be mindful of is that if you want to use a gadget like an event calendar, as per this example, then make sure you populate your actual events. So you can think of Wild Apricot in a way where it has the website as a front-facing thing, and then the database in the back end. And anything you would want to show on your front-facing website, you just have to make sure is populated and set up correctly on the back end. So you can refer to day 2 about how to go about making events here, but suffice to say that if you do have some, then the website event calendar gadget will actually display them very well. And of course, there are tons of information on gadgets, and because there are so many built into Wild Apricot, you may want to find specific help pages for the one that you are choosing to work with that particular time. And they will all be on the Wild Apricot help site. So I put a list of all the available gadgets here, as well as an intro to gadgets video, just in case you want to see how they work and you want to know some more information. But let's go back into my test site and let's play around with a couple of the gadgets. So let's go back to website, We'll go back to our home page because that's the easiest place to make these changes. I'll just hit edit again so that I can actually edit this home page. And of course, we're familiar with this screen. We were just back here a moment ago. Now, if we wanted to add a gadget to this page, the place where all of them are contained is when you're editing a site. You'll see up here, you have the page settings, which is the button on the left. The middle button is gadgets, which will bring up your entire gadget menu. And just while we're going through the options, the far right button is layouts. So if you wanted to use a different layout, and just as an example, you can see here that this is a 2-column layout because there's content on the left, and then we have the slideshow on the right. You could plot that in anywhere you need to. In fact, if we wanted to use a 3-column one right now, we can just put that over here on our site, put a 3-column layout, and you see that we now have 3 options for boxes about where we can drop things. You can delete it by hitting the trash icon when you hover over it. Likewise, we have these options up here. And that's how you can create different columns for your website, like different styles of where you want your content to appear. This would be a single column because it expands the entire screen from left to right. These are dual columns, so there's one on the left, one on the right, et cetera, et cetera. So it's how you can go about organizing the way you want your content to display. All right, back to gadgets. Oops, we're already on gadgets. Okay, so back to gadgets. You can see that there are a ton of options here on Wild Apricot for custom stuff that you can put on your site. I'm just going to scroll down slowly so you can see what kind of things are available. You have all your multimedia options here, so we could put a Google map, we could put a photo album or slideshow. There's members and content or contacts. Whew, I'm having a tongue twister kind of day, where you can insert the actual membership application, and that itself is a gadget. You can see that on Join Us, but if we wanted to have another one here on our home site, we could pick it up, pull it over to Wild Apricot, and of course you'll see these blue bars everywhere. That's just suggesting where you should place things, because there is another gadget here. The upcoming events screen that you're looking at right now is a gadget itself, so we want this membership application to be before the upcoming events gadget. And you can see that it automatically populates with your member levels with the same functionality that you would have had on something like a Join Us page. But now this membership application gadget is now on our homepage. And you can put this anywhere you like as well. So if you wanted to have different applications on different sections of your site, maybe you have a different volunteer application in a certain place, or you have a sponsor application for people to let you know what kind of information they want to sponsor, or if they want to purchase advertisements for your company, something like that. And you can have different membership applications, you can have different gadgets on different sites. It's really quite versatile there. And of course, if we wanted to delete that, we would just hover over it, hit the trash icon in the top right. And I'll scroll down a little bit more so we can look at some of the options there as well. We have event calendars, there's upcoming events, that's the one we're looking at as conveniently. You have a donation form and donation goals, those are all gadgets. The online store, there's a gadget for the catalog, there's also a gadget for the cart. And the cart lets you go and see what items you've selected that you would like to purchase. So this sometimes is nice to put on the home page. In fact, let's put a cart gadget right over here. There you go. So now we have our actual shopping cart. Anything we purchase from the online store, before we check out, it will appear up there. And now if I'm on the home site or the home page of my site, I can easily click that cart and go and see what is actually queued up for purchase. I'll just delete things as I go, that way it doesn't clutter my screen. Let's see, so you also have social gadgets too. So if you want to tie in your existing Twitter account or something like a Facebook page, you can do that. You just pick it up and drop it in here. There you go. So now we have the Wild Apricot Facebook page comes by default. That's now included on our site. It's a little bit big. So if we wanted to change how the size of this actual gadget, I can show you how gadget settings work now too. You would click the gadget and then the settings will pop up on the left. And these will be particular to the type of gadget that you're working with. You can see now it's the Facebook page gadget. Let's say we wanted to make this a little bit narrower. We have the width down here, or actually let's make it a little wider. So it's right now set to 300 pixels width. Let's double that. Let's make it 600. It rebuilds the gadget, it reloads the information from Facebook, and now you can see it's double the size. If we wanted that to fill the entire screen, we might have to do a little bit of guesswork, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 850. It will rebuild. Oh, not quite. Maybe that's as large as the Facebook widget can go itself. That's okay. That's, I think, big enough for our needs. So that's how we can get something like our social profile up on our site. And of course, we'll just get rid of these things as we go. Let's go back to gadgets. You got your blog, discussion forums. You got different menu options as well. So we could have a horizontal menu. We could have a vertical menu. We have the menu bar up here at the top of our site right now as it is. And yeah, hopefully that gives you some ideas on what gadgets do and the functionality. If you wanted to change some of the settings, like I'll show you, for example, this upcoming events one. If we wanted to change how many upcoming events it's actually displaying, we just click this gadget and then the settings will all pop up on the left. You can see here that it's showing the next 3 events. Let's make it show just 2. And there you go. It's only going to show the next 2 events coming up. If we can do that with all of the gadgets. So if we wanted to change how this map was functioning, we would just select it. The settings will pop up on the left. We could change the height or the zoom level. Let's make this a little bit closer to Wild Apricot HQ. Oh, actually it goes the other way, so we'll make it 17. There you go. There's Wild Apricot headquarters right next to Union Station in Toronto. Okay. Okay, now there's one other thing, there's one other thing I wanted to show off, and this is kind of a tip and trick, whatever. It's something that was requested by somebody in particular yesterday in their feedback that they provided for the lesson, and so I did want to show you how you can do it. A little trick from Coach Mark is that if you're having difficulty getting things lined up the way you want on Wild Apricot, for example, you want your icon to be small on the left side of your actual text, then what I recommend doing is using the layouts. So we're going to click into this third option that we haven't really looked much at, which is layouts. I'm going to take this 2-column layout, and you can see that you have the option to use 1 column, 2, 3, 4, or define your own custom layout if necessary. But I'm going to take this 2-column layout here. I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to drag it and put it on top of this featured member gadget. And I'm going to drop it there. You'll see that when you hover over a layout, it looks orange, versus where you hover over gadgets, it kind of grays out and shows you what gadget it is. When you're hovering over a layout, you see that it's orange, and you can actually drop gadgets in both sides of this. So I'm going to go back to gadgets. I'm going to put a content gadget on the left side. I'm going to click that gadget so I can edit it, and I'm going to insert an image. That's going to be the popcorn apricot. He's the model for today's boot camp, so we want him to be as prominent as possible. So there he is. He's over there on the left side of this gadget. Now I'm going to drop another one on the right side. And let's use a different icon. Let's use, we'll click image. Let's put in just the apricots. And again, this is a little big, so we'll click it. We'll drag that image a little bit smaller. And now you can see that although we have a 2-column layout, everything is kind of on the left side of each particular layout box. If I wanted to do a little trick to be able to adjust this, then what I can do is take the layout, grab the middle of it, so this is the area between the columns, and I can change what percentage is given to each particular column. By moving this all the way to the left, you can see that the actual apricot picture that we've used, now the content box takes up most of the screen. In fact, it looks like it's about 90% of the right side of this layout versus the left one, that's about 10%. But you can see how easy this lets you to actually move and manipulate the way that things are showing up. If we wanted to do the opposite, we could take this, drag it all the way to the right, and then we could take this left side of the content box where we have the apricot popcorn guy displayed. We'll click them, and we'll change the justification to justify right. And there he goes, all the way to the other side of the screen. So this is just a pretty useful trick if you want to be able to line stuff up. For example, you'll see my menu bar right here and the login button right here are all in the same row. And I did this by using a layout. So by using these layouts, you can get things all in the same row. You can decide how much space each side of it has. And I just think it's a good way to get things looking exactly like you like. And it's probably the fastest way, faster than using things like borders or page margins or any sort of offset like that, I think this is the easiest way, and hopefully it keeps everybody with as least frustration as possible as they find that things like this work out pretty well. Okay, let's click Save. There you go. So we have the changes we've made to our site, featured member for Mark Vatcha, and we have the map of Wild Apricot headquarters. So just some examples of some of the cool gadgets there. And of course, if you do want to find out anything more about that, either check the help site or just send me an email. Okay. Now, easily the second most common question I get about Wild Apricot is, what is a page template and why can't I get my logo on my own site? So the difference when Wild Apricot is concerned is that it organizes your site into site pages and page templates. A site page, as we've seen a couple examples of, is every individual page, like home, about us, or the blog, your join form, your events, etc. You can customize the content for each individual page and have them kind of have different main goals and focuses. So maybe your events page has all your events, your join us page has the join up, the application itself. But each site page takes its overall design from the page template. What a page template is the overall look and feel of the site. It's the design that site pages will use, and it's how you get things like your logo or your company or organization name into the top of your site, and then it'll stay there regardless of what site page you're actually looking at. And we saw that on the professional organization. No matter where we went, there was always that little construction guy at the top. That's because I put him into the page template, and then every site page I used took its design from the template. And if this is still confusing, I came up with a little analogy that I think does summarize and explain what I'm trying to relate. If you take a pad of paper like we're looking at right now, it's got the lines down it so that you can actually write legibly, and it also has the binding and the collating on the left there. So really this piece of paper has lines down or through it, and it also has a bunch of holes where the binding goes on the left side. If we write something on it, then no matter what we write, it's still going to be that same type of paper. It's still going to have lines through it. It's still going to have the holes. It still has this binding on the left side. When you are editing a page template, you're basically taking the pad of paper here and you're changing how it looks altogether. You might add your company logo. You might add a watermark. You may change the way that the lines are actually displayed or take out the holes altogether. And that way, when you start writing your pages or designing site pages on this new template, you'll still have the content of your site page, but it will use that look and theme that you've created as the page template. So basically, you're taking something that doesn't have your information on every page and you're changing the way that your site pages are going to be using that information so that it will display properly and have a good sense of cohesiveness no matter where you are navigating on your site. So I hope that makes sense. We can go and do a demonstration as well. And of course, in the handout, I do have additional information about how page templates work and how you can add or modify site pages to take advantage of those templates. But let's go and take a look and also throw in a couple of additional tips while we're doing this. Okay, so let's go back to the home page on my test site here. This is the home page. Let's say I want to do something like edit the way that the professional organization is displayed here. So if I edit my home page and I try and make a change to my logo up here at the top, you'll see as I hover over it that it'll say, to move or modify this gadget, edit the page template. And if you're anything like me, then you'll go, huh? And you'll probably click it a couple times and wonder why it's not working. Likewise, it's going to give us the same message if we look at our logo, if we look at the menu bar. And that's because while editing our home page on the site pages here, although we can edit things like how this displays, thank you for coming by, we can't edit anything that's part of the page template itself. This site page is taking its overall look and feel from the page template. And in the page template is where we have our logo, where we have our organization name, where we have this menu bar. So instead, what I'm going to do is go over to page templates. And that's in website, page templates. And here, what I've done is I only want to be working from one template. And many of your sites, when they're first built, they may have a couple of other templates here. Don't worry, not to worry about anything. Those are just examples of what you can do. You could have entirely different templates for different sections of your site. Maybe once somebody logs in and they're in the members only content, then things look a little bit different. And then you could have two templates. You could have a regular standard one, whatever you want to call it. And then you could have the members only one that would make the site look differently and feel differently, but only if somebody's logged in. For this particular example, let's just click this standard template. And then we'll see that although it says a bunch of stuff everywhere, like page-specific gadget used on one page, page-specific gadget used on 2 or 54 pages, these are just signifying that on different site pages on my site, there's different content that will appear here. There's particular content that will appear here and here, as well as here. But the page template itself is what we're looking at now. On my page template includes these social login buttons, the logo, the company name, my login button, the menu bar. And if we wanted to make a change to this, like we wanted to change the way that the professional organization actually displays itself, we could click it. And then maybe let's just give it a little bit of flair. So I'll make these letters yellow. We'll make it a little bit more prominent. If we wanted to change the logo, we could click that too. We could change it from this digging guy into something else. So let's delete the digging guy. Let's insert an image. And this is how you can get your company logo up there. And now if I save this page and we look at the site pages for our site, you'll see that all of them now share this new logo design that we've completed at the top of our page. So that's how you get things to look congruent between site pages. That's where you can make changes to basically the top, the bottom, the background of your site. And why it may be difficult at first to figure out how to do this, but hopefully it makes a lot more sense now. Now, there are a couple other things that I want to show off just really quick while we are talking about templates, and that's if you want to see what page templates are being used by site pages, then what I recommend doing is going to page templates, clicking one, and then if you look up here, it actually will say that this standard template is not only the default template as indicated by this star, but it's used on 56 different pages of my site. And if I hover over this, it will show me the exact site pages that are using this template. This is good for troubleshooting. If you think that something's not showing up even though it looks like it should, then make sure that it is actually using this particular template. You can do that by seeing which pages are using the template as per here. Now, if we had another template, so let's take this one and we'll duplicate it. And on this duplicate copy, I'm going to edit it quickly and I'm going to change these colors for the professional organization. I'm going to change this to orange. Oh, well, how about 3 different colors of orange? There you go. We'll click Save. Now we have 2 template options. We have the standard template, which is also the default template, and we have the copy of the standard template, which has slightly different colors for the logo. When I go to site pages, I can decide which template each individual site page uses. That's what I meant to say. So let's go to our Join Us page, for example. I'll click Edit so that I can actually make changes here. And then while we're looking at the page settings for this page, you'll see that I can select which template this page will use. Right now it's using the standard template. If I wanted it to use the copy of the standard template with the different lettering, and I hit Save, then now this page is now using the copy with the orange letters for the professional organization, not the yellow ones. If I click back to Home, this one's still using the first template, so you can see it's yellow letters. If I click News, it's again using the first template we were looking at, but if I click Join Us, because it's been set to use a different template, it's going to look a little bit different. And again, you can use this to have different sections of your site look and feel differently. But as long as you're aware of how you can do it and how you can change what's already been done, you should be well set. Okay, a couple other things to talk about, and then I think I'll just throw the floor open to questions. One other thing that comes up pretty commonly is how can I change my site background? Well, there's actually a way to change a lot of the look and feel of your site in terms of backgrounds, and that's done through the option website and then colors and styles. And when you get here, each theme actually has its own color and style guide. So if there is something in particular you're looking to figure out how to change, then I would check the help site, because each theme has a full guide on which sections of the page can be edited, how you go about naming them and editing them, and how you would get backgrounds on them, for example. So instead of having to change them one by one on each individual site page, you could change them for the entire site as a whole by going to colors and styles. Now I'll show you what that looks like. We'll of course use the professional organization as a demonstration page. What I'm going to do is go to website, colors and styles. And while we are in colors and styles here, you can see that I can change things like how my actual gadgets will look. I can change the background for them or their font, and I know that came up as a question a little bit earlier. For example, the blog is here. So we would go down to get login gadgets, basic typography. Here we go. And again, I don't really want to show off the font stuff. That's not as impressive as showing site backgrounds, but you could absolutely do that here as well. If I did want to change some of the backgrounds, I'm going to click this to expand the background menu. You see that I actually have a bunch of different options for things that I can change. If I want to change the whole site background as a whole, I'll click the site one. You see you have a couple options here. You can change the color, you can add an image as your site background, and then you can decide how often that image repeats. So if I want to change the color, let's make it, let's see, what's not going to look terrible? How about a light blue? Not great, but not bad. We've now changed the entire background of our site to light blue. Maybe though, instead of that, I'd like to insert an image. So let's go to the background image and we'll select one. Now here, there's a bunch of them pre-built into Wild Apricot. You can select from any of the quite literal hundreds of background options that are available, or you can insert your own. And we do that by going over to Files, and then we select one that we have uploaded already to Wild Apricot. So in this case, let's just take this one. We'll apply it as the background, and there you go. You've got your apricots in the background of the site. By changing the repetition of that, we can make it so that it only scales from left to right. You can see it no longer goes down the site, and that's because we made it repeat on the x-axis only. We can also do the same for the y-axis, or we can make it not repeat at all, and it just appears once in the top left. Now this is a little bit busy because the next section that I want to show off is that there are a bunch of different places you can edit particular colors and backgrounds, not only just for the site. And I'll show that by just kind of making as much of a mess as I possibly can. So first we're going to start with the outer header. We'll edit the background color, and we'll make this light blue. That's the outer header, and as you can see, that's this area up here. The inner header can also be changed. Let's make this orange. Now you can see the outer header still is blue. The inner header is now orange. And here's outer header number 2. Again, we can continue making a mess. It kind of looks cool. Header 2 is now buried underneath one of our other gadgets, so that's okay. The outer content, again, we'll just continue clicking random colors until I've made my site very colorful. And I hope this is coming across okay. What I'm really just trying to show you is that you have a lot of options on how you want to customize things. And we can continue doing this until the site actually looks like a bowl of cereal or something. But I'm going to go ahead and click cancel, and I hope nobody will hold me to that or blame me for it, because I don't want my site looking like this. I just wanted to show off what is possible. Okay, that's it for colors and styles and backgrounds. The only other thing I want to show off really is how you can do widgets and how you can use widgets to take your Wild Apricot functionality and put them elsewhere. And this is most often used if you have an existing website, or maybe you just want to be able to get something like your application form on one of your other sister sites pages. So if you're a chapter of an organization, or you're part of a guild of skill clubs, whatever it is, maybe you want people at another site to be able to see your events, or maybe you want them to be able to sign up for your site altogether. And how you can go about doing this in an easy way is by using the pre-built widgets to put those forms and to put that functionality on an exterior site. And you don't really have to know how to do any coding to do this. You just have to decide what it is that you want to use for your widget. And there are a lot of options here. You can do it for events. You can do it for a lot of the member functionality, including the directory. You can do it for people's profiles. You can do it for summaries of the forums or the blogs. You can also do it for email subscription forms, which is a really good way to get people's information so that you can send them some correspondence later. So if, for example, you use the subscription form and you put it on your friend's website saying, if you're interested in learning more about the professional organization, insert your email here. Well, you could absolutely do that. And then anybody who did fill in their email, it would get sent back to Wild Apricot on your site, and you can go ahead and see that person's information. Now, I have some links on the help site here if you are looking for more info, but I'm going to show you really quick where you can go to get things like widget code. So going back to my site real quickly, we see that we are still on the colors and styles, but let's go to where we can find that widget code and see what options exist. And I'm going to go to settings. I'll go to all. And then over here, the third option on the left is widgets code. I'm going to click that. And if I scroll down, I see that on the left, I have a list of all the available widgets on Wild Apricot. Underneath it is a little bit of a description about what that widget actually is. The middle column is for us to be able to select particular examples of any one widget type. So for example, for event details, we can select from any of the events we have in our system. If we want to display information for the winter potluck, including registration buttons, I can just select that here, or I could select one of the other options there, such as the bootcamp after party. And then on the right is where the code is actually pre-established for you. All you have to do is take this and copy it. And let's see if I can show you what that looks like. Oh, I don't have a notepad here. Notepad. There it is. So we've copied the code here. And if I pasted it, you can see that although this is a lot of computer language, I didn't write any of it. It came pre-built in Wild Apricot. All I have to do is copy it. And then on my existing site, I could go ahead and paste this in. It will automatically create a window of these dimensions with all of the information for this particular event. You can see there are a number of options here. If you want to show things like your member application, you can show different applications from different sections of your site. The directory, again, you could show different directories that you have set up. I think we only have the one right now. You can also show different forum summaries, such as members only content, or different forums in general. And of course, we don't have a subscription form yet, but there's that option down there. If we wanted to use this, we would have to put a subscription form on one of our site pages, just so it has something to build the widget from, and then of course it would create the code right for us. Now this also works in reverse. On your Wild Apricot page, you can use widgets from exterior sites. What that means is you can do cool things like embed YouTube videos. You can do things like implement widgets that you found elsewhere. And I actually just want to show this off kind of quickly because I think it'll be fun. And to do this, I need this window over here. So let's go take a YouTube video and put it on our site. So let's say on the home page here, I want to actually put a video. I'm going to click edit. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and this time I'm going to need a custom HTML gadget. That's because we're putting in some code, and this is going to make it so that code is read automatically. So I'm going to take this gadget, I'm going to drop it on my site. I'll put it right here. I'll click into this custom HTML just as a placeholder, because the next step we're going to do is go to YouTube, and we're going to take the code, the embedded code for a video, and put it directly on our site. So over here, I have something prepared already. This is from one of the David Attenborough series, and I happen to think it's really nice. And if I wanted to put it on my site, then what I do is just find the video I want. I go down here on YouTube to share. And if I scroll down just a little bit further, you see that you have three options here. You can do all of the social media sharing down here. You could share it by email, or we could go to the embed function. And YouTube's going to do the same thing that Wild Apricot does. It pre-creates that code for you. All you have to do is take it, copy it. We can go back to our site. We'll go back to the custom HTML and we'll edit the code for it. We're going to put that YouTube code directly in there. We'll click save. And there it is. It now appears on our site. We can view that video directly from YouTube, exactly where I put it on my site at any time. Likewise, you can do this for cool things like I found a world clock widget, and I just pre-built it here. So you have a couple of cities that you can select from. And again, this builds it for you. So we're just going to take this widget code, we'll copy it, go back to our site here, and we'll put another custom HTML gadget. We'll just edit the code and we'll place the new world clock code here. There it is. It's built itself on my site. So I click save. And then when we're actually viewing our site, just scrolling down, we can see this new video that we've put. I can click play. It has all of the buttons and YouTube functionality because that comes pre-built on their system. Sorry, Mr. Attenborough. We'll have to deal with this a little bit later. You can see this world clock, and of course this shares all the same functionality that it had before. I can select different cities and have the world clock adjust to show those time zones. And I just found this really quickly. There are a lot of things on the internet that are pre-built as widgets that you'll be able to use on Wild Apricot. I just want you to know that you're not limited to what's built into Wild Apricot. You can also go exterior and find things that you are interested in to make your site look exactly like you want. Okay. Now, for those of you who are thinking about staying with Wild Apricot past your trial and you actually want to go ahead and upgrade, we have a couple of free services that you can take advantage of when you get to that point. For example, when you are an upgraded Wild Apricot customer, you can actually attach a custom domain to your site. So if your website address is something like www.here'smycoolwebsite.com, you can take that address, and of course you'd have to have purchased that from a domain registrar like GoDaddy. But if you do own that address and you're ready to use it, well, on a paid Wild Apricot account, you can attach it. So people won't see mycoolwebsite.wildapricot.org anymore. They'll see www.thisismycoolwebsite.com. People will be able to find your site easier. You'll be able to brand your organization a little bit better because chances are you may have one of these domains already. And I just want everybody to know that you can absolutely attach that to Wild Apricot just on paid accounts only. Likewise, if you do happen to make this change to your site, then what you're going to need is a free SSL certificate. And we do that for free for you. It's part of our offering here at Wild Apricot. We'll even attach it to your account on your behalf. You just have to let us know. Just send us a quick ticket or an email and we will happily do it for you. And that's going to help to protect the privacy of your site so that people can't track you visiting or when users visit your site, they won't be tracked, and when they exit your site, they also won't be tracked. And because we're dealing with member privacy a lot here, this is something that you will want to consider, and I want everybody to know that it's included for free on the upgraded account. And of course, I do have information in the help page in case this comes up and sounds like something that you personally would want to implement. They are pretty common questions and pretty common things that we help upgraded accounts do. So I think if you do stick with Wild Apricot, chances are you'll probably do both of these sections as well. And for those of you who are not necessarily thinking about upgrading Wild Apricot or who will be using the free version, there are some limitations, and these are two of them right here. So I also included a link to the functionality by billing plan, and that's of course going to tell you what each different version of Wild Apricot is capable of doing for you. As a quick overview of that, any paid version has full functionality, the free version has slightly limited functionality, and the trial has about 99% of functionality. The only thing you can't really do is put your custom domain on there. But otherwise, unless there are any questions, what I think I would like to do is wrap up for today and invite you very warmly to get in touch with me if there is anything that I can help you with personally. I've made sure that my entire team is here today, so if anybody has any website issues that have been driving them a little bit crazy or they want to talk about, then just send us an email at coaches@wildapricot.com and we'll be more than happy to go through it with you. Likewise, if you are already a current user of Wild Apricot, you can actually call in the full technical support as well. So if you're on a trial, you unfortunately don't have access to this just yet, but if you are upgraded, you can call in and talk to the team. For those of you on the trial, you'll have to give me and my team an email at coaches@wildapricot.com, or you can find us live on chat. And of course, we are kind of dedicating the rest of the day to helping out with website issues or anything else that we've reviewed this week in the boot camp that we could get you up and running with. Tomorrow's Friday, and I would like to be able to send everybody home on the weekend with a good idea of what they have planned for the future and with enough of a feeling like they actually have accomplished something this week. So let's use the rest of today as well as tomorrow's lesson that's going to be about tips and tricks and some additional features. Let's use all of this to make sure that everybody is getting closer to their goal. We've covered a lot about Wild Apricot right now, and yes, so tomorrow is mainly tips and tricks. It's some additional features, and there's going to be a bit of a more expanded Q&A. It is Friday, and I want to make sure that everybody takes as much advantage of this bootcamp week as they possibly can. Otherwise, that's it for day 4. I hope to hear from you. I hope that everybody has learned a couple of things and has some ideas of what they want to do for their own site. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and if anybody does get in contact with me after the lesson, I'd really look forward to it. Thanks, everybody. Have a really great day. Bye for now.